So the topic today is states that regulate PFAS, and we talk about PFAS all the time. So I'll start with a little bit of an overview about, what PFAS chemicals are, what the health effects are, and then get right into the states that are actually regulating them and what those regulations actually mean. So again, if you want a more in-depth overview of PFAS, definitely look at one of our previous videos that really will go into what this category of contaminants are. But just for an overview, PFAS are a category of chemicals. There are over 4,000 that are known in the environment, and we're still learning every day of more variations of this chemical, and we're learning more about the health effects of PFAS every single day as well. But we do know that PFAS have been detected in the drinking water of over 200 million Americans. We know that it is found all over the world, and we know that it's not only in drinking water, but it's in a lot of consumer products, Teflon, Scotchgard, anything with like a non-stick surface or like a water-resistant surface, you're likely to find PFAS in it. So we know that they are also extremely toxic, and we know that they are associated with a lot of different illnesses. So they're known to increase the risk of cancer, they're known to increase cholesterol, and they're known to have negative impacts on reproductive outcomes. So probably the most shocking and unfortunate statistic is that exposure to PFAS increases the risk of miscarriage by 80 to 120%. So these chemicals are, we don't want them in our drinking water. We say this all the time on our Instagram and YouTube channel. And so I guess it's important to note that they are unregulated at the federal level. And so that means that they can just be in our drinking water, they can be in our consumer products, really without any sort of check. And so EPA and other health organizations are continuously studying these chemicals, but nothing really concrete in terms of a game plan. Like there's the PFAS action plan, but nothing really beyond that can give us, what this might look like in a year from now or 6 months, and how we can really protect ourselves and our family from these chemicals. So because, PFAS aren't regulated at the federal level, a lot of states are taking action, and they're kind of deciding on their own what to do about these chemicals. And of course, there's a huge caveat to that because, when states are working independently of themselves, they might have different data. They might be relying on different information. So, one state could have a really low level of, what's considered safe, and then another state might have something that, isn't really known to make that much of a difference. And I should also mention that even though EPA doesn't have a regulatory limit, also known as a maximum contaminant level or MCL, EPA does have a non-enforceable health advisory level, and that level is 70 parts per trillion, and that was set in 2016. Not saying that the data or research is old or, not reliable, but we just know from more recent studies that 70 parts per trillion of total combined PFAS probably isn't going to make any meaningful protection from what these contaminants can do to our bodies. And so one study has found that as low as 0.1 parts per trillion is an acceptable level. So you can really just tell that there's such a range based on, these different studies that states and the federal government are using in order to come up with these acceptable levels. And so when a state or the federal government if they were to set a regulatory level, MCL, maximum contaminant level. What that means is that municipalities would have to take action to make sure that the levels in drinking water are at or below that action level, or that MCL. And so I think one of the biggest misconceptions about these contaminants is that if your state is saying, oh, we have a health advisory level, or oh, we have a health goal, and it's so-and-so, it really doesn't mean anything. And so same with the current EPA health advisory level of 70 parts per trillion, it actually doesn't mean anything. So it's kind of EPA saying, oh, this is what we think is going to be okay, but we can't enforce it. We can't make it legally binding. It's just kind of like what we think. So until there's like an actual level that is meaningful and enforceable, there's really nothing that your like state or municipality is required to do. So some of the, if you're looking at your state website and you're curious, and I'll run through the list of states that have actionable levels, but if you're seeing things like health advisory level, health goal, guidance level, notification level, those are not enforceable. The states that have enforceable levels are Massachusetts, Michigan, New Hampshire. I'm just reading off this list because I don't want to miss any. New Jersey, New York, Vermont, Alaska, Connecticut, Delaware, and Ohio.